Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the NMP Paint Strippers Workshop. Let me take a moment to also welcome those that are joining us via the webcast. My name is Carrie Rasmussen, and I'm here with the Department of Toxic Substances Control, or DTSC. I'm a public participation specialist, and I will be facilitating today's workshop. Today's program, after the clarifying questions, that's when we will accept comments. And any additional comments, please submit before October 1st on the CalSafer website, as you see on the slide. This workshop will adjourn at 12 noon or at the end of all public comments, whichever comes first. Now, please join me in welcoming Carl Palmer to begin the welcoming address.
Thanks, Gary. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone here in the room and everyone online. Thanks for attending this workshop. I'm just going to be brief. Today is the latest in a series of workshops we are holding at DTSC as we move through implementing our party product work plan to identify our party products for the Safer Consumer Products Program. The thing I want to stress is that today is the first formal opportunity to have initiate some discussion and dialogue about our draft product profile, which you'll hear more about in detail in a few minutes. And this is a reflection of our commitment to make sure that there's a clear and transparent process of sharing information that we use to make our determination about which priority products we're going to propose and why. So what I would encourage you today is, if you have questions or comments, you can make them today. Also note that the comment period is formally open through October 1st, and you can use our CalSafer web portal to provide written comments. And once we get all those comments, we'll then take a look at the info we've gotten and revise this profile and move the next step further. We would anticipate would be going towards rulemaking, in which case everyone will have another opportunity to look at our final profile and provide formal comments through the rulemaking process. So the main message is, please pay attention, ask questions, be engaged, give us your input. We're really relying on people giving us good information so that we can make good decisions. So with that, thank you, welcome. Look forward to the rest of the meeting, and I'll turn it over to Rob Ruscia.
Thank you, Carl. And thank you, Carrie, for the introductory comments. And thank you all for coming, and thank you those of you who are on the internet for participating via the webinar. Carl and Carrie both indicated we are here to discuss a draft technical profile for paint and varnish strippers and graffiti removers containing N-methylpyrrolidone. DTSC is proposing to list this product chemical combination as a priority product, and we are holding this workshop to begin engaging the public and interested stakeholders. A few years back, some of you may recall that we proposed our initial list of priority products, and one of those was paint strippers containing methylene chloride, and that product chemical combination is actually in the rulemaking phase to be listed as a priority product. And at the time that we did that and we're talking with stakeholders, we mentioned our intent to take a look also at N-methylpyrrolidone in these types of products. We couldn't address it in our initial priority products list due to constraints in the Safer Consumer Product Regulation, but we did voice our intent to come back and look at it later, and we have. And we prepared this draft technical profile, which is available on our website. It's available both via our DTSC webpage and our CalSafer webpage. Let's see, and then also I think a link was provided to the this presentation on an earlier slide. So you can also access this entire presentation that we're providing today, and it has information again on how to get to the draft technical profile. Okay, so I'm going to give you a very brief summary of the draft profile. Again, very brief. I encourage anyone interested to go look at the profile. The profile basically contains all of the information we relied upon in deciding to propose listing this product chemical combination as a priority product. Today, what I'm going to primarily focus on in my discussion is the product description that we currently have in the draft profile. I'm going to talk about the considerations, the things that we considered in deciding to list this product chemical combination. I'm going to talk about some exposure considerations and hazard considerations that we looked at. And then at the end of this meeting, as was indicated, you'll have an opportunity to ask any kind of clarifying questions or to make comments. Okay, so here is the proposed product definition. And I'm going to read this verbatim, just to go through it real quick, make sure that I don't leave anything out. But we propose calling this product, or defining this product chemical combination as any product that may be marketed, sold, or described as a chemical substance or formulation designed to break down paint or varnish to facilitate its complete removal from a surface, or in the case of graffiti removers, to remove any unwanted markings or vandalism type related markings from any surface without damaging the underlying finished surface. Okay, these products may be designed for indoor or outdoor use in both household and institutional settings. They can be used to remove varnish, paint, literally any other coatings or markings from any kind of surface. Now, this description is based on what we understand about these products' known modes of use, and also on the California Air Resource Board's existing definitions of paint strippers and graffiti removers. We are aware that CARB treats paint strippers and graffiti removers somewhat differently, and that a large variety of products may fall into our proposed definition. But regardless of the fact that CARB treats them slightly differently for purposes other than ours, we are proposing to include both the paint strippers and the graffiti removers because they may be used in similar ways, and also because they have similar modes of use, there are similar risks associated with NMP exposure during their use. Okay. So what prompted us to consider N-methylpyrrolidone as a possible chemical of concern in these products? Well, the California Code of Regulations has a chapter that describes hazard characteristics. And the sections that pertain to developmental and reproductive toxicity are listed at the bottom of this slide. Based on those definitions, we have concluded, and the information that we present in our profile, we have concluded that there is strong evidence for the developmental toxicity of NMP, and that there is suggestive evidence for its reproductive toxicity. We also know that it may harm the skin and the eyes, and that it does have potential adverse neurological effects, and that sensitive subpopulations especially include children, pregnant women, and workers. We also know that the use of paint stripping products containing NMP have a potential to expose the user. Paint strippers are widely available to consumers in California, although we don't know the exact percentage of the paint strippers on the market or the graffiti removers that contain NMP. We know that there is a potential risk of NMP exposure to consumers and workers during use. And we also know that some commonly used types of personal protective equipment, especially gloves, may not provide adequate protection against exposure. Based on the information in our profile, we think that there is a significant potential for exposure to NMP during the use of paint and varnish strippers and graffiti removers that contain that chemical. We know, or we think that there is a potential for these exposures to contribute to or cause widespread or significant adverse impacts on human health, and that children and pregnant women, women of childbearing age, and workers may be especially susceptible to the adverse effects. I also might mention that the US EPA recently published a risk assessment regarding the use of NMP in paint strippers and concluded that that particular use of NMP in paint strippers presents the highest risk of exposure to NMP during the use of those products. And that risk assessment is cited heavily in our technical profile. Okay, that really concludes my summary of the draft profile. Again, it's available. We encourage you to look it over, to read it, and to provide written comments via our CalSafer website. We have some questions that we're hoping you can help us answer, although we're interested in any comments that you might provide. These questions, the answers to these questions we feel may help us prepare a better overall profile. Most of these questions relate to marketing information. We would like to know who manufactures paint strippers and graffiti removers with NMP, both around the world, but also in California. We would like to know how much of this type of product, chemical combination, is sold in California and to whom. That is it primarily for home do-it-yourselfers? Is it for maintenance workers to remove graffiti? Is it for businesses? We also are interested in any information we can get regarding how frequently these types of products are used by the various people who might use them. And we're also interested in finding out whether or not there are potential safer alternatives out there. And in general, again, any information that you feel that we should consider as we move forward with this, we'd like to hear from you. So we're going to now begin our discussion period. We're first going to answer any clarifying questions that we might be able to answer for you. If you have any, you can submit those now. And after that, we'll open it up to public comment. Again, we have some here for the folks attending in person. We have some comment cards. We would like you to fill one out. You don't have to, but we would like you to fill one out if you'd like to make a comment, and then hold it up. We'll come around and get it. You'll be called in the order in which we receive those. After that, we'll open it up to anyone who wants to make a comment and not fill in a card. Again, we ask for written comments to be submitted via CalSafer. The comment period is open from now until 11:59 p.m. on October 1st. There's a link provided here where you can provide your comments. You can also access the draft profile via that link. My contact information is here. Please don't submit your comments to me directly. Please submit them to our CalSafer website. If you have any questions that I might help clarify for you or answer, I'd be happy to do that, or any other concerns you'd like to express. But again, comments to the CalSafer website, please. And I think that's it. We'll open it up for any questions if there are any. We'll first open it up to those folks here who are in the room. Are there any questions? We have one question. Go ahead.
If I look at the document in here, one of the phrases that we call ocular toxicity is because of eye irritation. But eye irritation is not necessarily equal to toxicity. So my question is that, is there any additional evidences that indicates that NMP exposure to eye leads to ocular toxicity?
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
I'm going to repeat the question. I apologize to those on our webcast. There's a single microphone, and so I'm going to repeat the question. The question related to ocular toxicity. We had mentioned in the profile that NMP may be damaging to eyes. The question was, is there any other information that's not really a toxicity trait so much, and was there any other information that relates to ocular toxicity? And the answer is not that we're aware of. There was a paper that's cited in our profile that talked about eye damage, one case of eye damage. There are other reports in some government publications that it may be damaging to eyes, but that's not a primary reason that we've decided to propose listing this product chemical combination. It's just additional hazard related information that we put into the profile. Did that answer your question for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a logistical question. So, timing-wise, there's been other products that have gone through the scoping process and the draft process. Do you have an idea of when this product, what the next steps would be for it, or what the timing would be of that? Because I know I mentioned I think there's 3 or 4 other products that have gone through the same process yet that haven't existed technically yet. So just kind of advise on that.
The question relates to basically the overall process and the timing that would be involved as we move forward, considering that we've proposed other products that we're in the process of listing but that have not yet been listed. And the answer is, it's hard to really answer that question because of the fact that they all vary. All of these product chemical combinations that we're dealing with are very different from one another, and the size of the stakeholder universe that's interested in them may differ among them, and there may be other various considerations. So it's really not possible right now, I don't think, to give a definitive time frame, other than we will hold this comment period, we will take the comments we received and consider them. We will then respond accordingly. If there's information in there that we think should be added to the profile, we will do that, and then we will move forward. And by moving forward, I don't know, Carl, do you have any additional comment? At the rate at which we do that, it's almost impossible to say it with certainty.
No, I think Rob said it well, is that we really base the pace based on the substance of the information and the process going forward. The process is the same essentially for each priority product that's proposed, but it really depends on the specifics of the information. It might be a good time to just also highlight that sometimes folks get a little ahead of themselves in terms of making assumptions about where the process leads. The listing of a priority product, first and foremost, is about moving to the next step of conducting an alternatives analysis, which is really the cornerstone of our program. It's important to note that process, as most of you know, is in and of itself a rigorous kind of assessment of a lot of different factors over the life cycle of the product, and we are predetermining an outcome from that point forward. So just getting to the rulemaking process is one next step, and then when it's adopted, there's the whole next step of doing one form or another of an AA, in which point then we take the next appropriate step. So it's a long process, but your question is a good one, and the best thing I can suggest is just to monitor all these as we go forward.
Yeah, as we make major milestones, as we achieve them through the process, we usually are very active in trying to notify interested stakeholders via our listserv, web postings, and so forth. So we will definitely note those milestones as we move forward and make sure that any interested folks are aware of where we're headed, and continue engaging stakeholders as well throughout the process. So, okay, any other? Yes,
In regards to alternative materials for NMP, I mean, even though using the same NMP, if you find that formulation where would lead to relatively small exposure with a significant margin exposure for actual usage, would that be an alternative, alternative to current exposure?
the question is that in evaluating these products, if a manufacturer can formulate in such a way that it reduces exposure to NMP, is that a safer alternative? Generally speaking, the answer I think is yes. I mean, the idea is that we are trying to reduce exposures to these, or the potential for exposures to these chemicals that we're trying to address in these products. And so that may be one particular outcome of an alternatives assessment, is that you may have a viable way of doing that. And that may be by reducing the concentration or other types of methods for doing that.
In the same context, you mentioned about the EPA generated
the assessment, the risk assessment.
Are you actually have any intention to review this assessment document to understand whether the benchmark dose is actually adequate for actual risk assessment, or do you consider that as final risk assessment? Do you use as extension for regulatory parts?
So let me repeat your question to make sure I understand it. Your question relates to the US EPA's risk assessment and whether or not we have any intention to go back and take another look at that in relation to benchmark doses and whether or not benchmark doses are adequate. Did you want to say something? Yeah, no is the answer. Our framework isn't a risk assessment framework. It's different than that. Did you want to say something, Carl?
Well, just what Rob was saying is it is a very different framework. Certainly the documents that EPA has produced are very valuable and helpful to us in our assessment, but is a different process. We're not going to be establishing a new benchmark or looking at some numeric threshold, for example. So the other question that we often get in this space, and the same with methylene chloride, is, well, why are you doing this? EPA is doing that. And That's a good question. We're not entirely sure what EPA's path is exactly and when that might be. So we're just moving forward in our process, and we'll see how that goes. I think a lot of people have the same question, but you'd have to ask EPA that. But we're going to move forward, and it's very helpful, the work that they've done, and it just augments what we're looking at.
Any other questions here from the audience that's present? No? Okay, Baku, there were no questions via the webcast? Okay, again, for those of you who are watching the webcast, if you do have comments or questions, you can use the chat function in the webcast to submit those to us. I have a colleague monitoring that who will provide us with your comments or questions, and we'll make sure that we read them and try to answer any questions you may have. Okay, with that, we're going to open it up for any public comments. Those who are on the webcast, please provide them if you have them. We will read them. And for those of you in attendance, is there anyone who would like to make a comment? Okay, no comments, no additional comments from the folks who are present. Anything over the webcast? Okay, with that, I guess we're going to conclude the workshop since there don't appear to be any additional comments. If you do have comments, again, please submit them online by October 1st. The information is presented here in the slide presentation where you can do that, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.